just in that.
Yeah. All right. So it looked like the YouTube had to recalibrate, so it might ask you again to accept it. All right, so let's do this because I want to make sure we capture this while we have you as well. So Chicago policing, is it different from the policing elsewhere? Like, have you heard stories about the difference between LA, New York police and Chicago? How do you know other cops throughout the nation?
I do. And remember this, the Department of Justice, before this person came in, had put consent decrees on Chicago, LA, Miami, a bunch of other places. But it's interesting because in each one of those cities, they said two things. One, there's a problem with racism. Two, the span of control was out of control. And by that, they said that the sergeant positions were not being held accountable and they were not doing their job. So that's why you started seeing a movement for more sergeants on the street. And it's quiet as kept. That's what they're trying to do now. But there's a whole lot of other issues that go with that because in my lifetime, I understood and I've been to the management classes and I understand that just because you have a rank does not mean you're a leader.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, I mean that's for sure. Saw that in the military. Now, did you serve in the military as well?
no, all of my family did. And when you get a chance, I tell you, I actually got accepted at one of the academies and then got sick. And,
Mm, wasn't meant
and
to be.
well, and here's the thing the recruiter at the time said, his scores were good, whatever. He can enlist. So my father went kind of crazy. He's like, wait a minute, his scores are good. Why should he enlist when you've accepted him? But you're saying, and I've been clear about all the doctors. I had a kidney operation. And they said, well, no, you
Mm.
can't have any operations, blah, blah, blah. So that ended that. And by the way, my father was a veteran of World War II.
Was he Army vet or
Yes,
what
Army.
what branch? Okay, Army. Yeah. Wow. So where we have, and for those who will watch this later, so Chicago, middle of America, in the middle, unlike the edges of New York and LA, they on the edges. We in the middle. Your strength comes from the core, the middle. So to represent for Chicago. But Chicago has historically had more homicides since the late 90s, outpacing New York and LA. Why do you think that is? Like, why are we in the middle doing far worse than LA and New York, in your estimation?
I think that's that problem goes a lot further than we got time, but I'll just say this. There is a problem with our kids understanding what's been identified as conflict resolution. I'll say this without going into a long show, everything starts at home. So what happens is when you disrupt that home, when you don't have a community, not just a neighborhood, but a community, then you see what happens. Think about this. Most of our people come from the South.
Right.
But do you remember a time when you had this much mistrust, hatred, fighting amongst our people?
No,
It's
no.
interesting because King said in his letter from Birmingham jail, I fear I have led my people into a burning house. And one of the things that was so profound, as I understood it later, was that King was not really an integrationist. So a lot of our problems, I believe, just my opinion, comes from the fact that we have started incorporating a lot of their ways into what we're doing.
Yeah, big time.
A lot of people may not like that statement, but I debate anybody.
Uh, I call it CEMS, CEMS, chasing European models of success.
Okay. I might have to use
Yeah,
that one.
yeah, Kims. Now, ideally, we'll be chasing Cams, chasing African models of success where we're village people and we care about one another. We, are highly connected. That like, but we chasing Kims instead of Cams. So please feel free to help popularize that.
I will. I will.
So I want to read to you because every Chicago zip code is responsible for a different city. And so I want to read that so our people would know. And then I want to get your thoughts once you hear these. So Boston, Massachusetts is linked to Chicago's East Garfield Park neighborhood. And these commanders, these commissioners and commanders are old school. This just so people would know historically. Dennis White was the police commander there. In Los Angeles, it was Michael Moore, and Los Angeles is linked to Chicago's North Lawndale community. Then we had in Atlanta, Georgia, Rodney Bryant, and Atlanta is linked to Chicago's Garfield Park neighborhood. Then in Memphis, we had Cerrelli Davis as the commissioner. And Memphis is linked to North Austin on the west side. St. Louis, the commissioner was Mary T. Barton, linked to St. Louis is linked to South Austin on the west side. And then Birmingham, Alabama is the commissioner was Patrick D. Smith, and Birmingham is linked to Chicago's Humboldt Park. Our Black people call it North Garfield Park community on the west side. So those were the west side Chicago neighborhoods that's linked to those cities and across the country. We got two other ones to go through, but what's your thoughts on any of that I just stated, Brother Joseph?
I think those are great ideas. I mean, hell, the city of Chicago is linked with China. So
Yeah. well, it's in the middle. Like that's called central. Like it's in a good position to spread its wings when you got a core like that. Let's go to the other one. So Detroit, Michigan, the police commissioner at that time was James Craig. I think that's a brother. And Detroit is linked to Chicago's New City neighborhood. Then we got Norfolk, Virginia. Larry D. Boone was the police commissioner. And Norfolk is linked to Auburn Gresham in Chicago. New York City, it was Demont F. Shea, the largest police force in the world. They're linked to Chicago's Inglewood neighborhood. And then DC was Robert Conti III, and DC is linked to Chicago's Marquette Park neighborhood, where Dr. King said when he got hit with a brick, he never seen segregation, racism like that, what he saw in Marquette Park, Chicago. Then San Diego Police Commissioner was David Neslett, and San Diego is linked to West Inglewood. Then the last one on the south is St. Paul, Minnesota. That commissioner was Todd Axtell, and they're linked to the Ashburn neighborhood, 79th and Western area there. Any thoughts on those linkages there?
I think those are all great linkages. I think that, you call it Birmingham. When I grew up, my mother was calling it Birmingham. That's what
bomb with that A, huh?
Yeah.
That's where my father's side of the family is from, Birmingham. My mother's side is from Florida, so they both in the South, though.
Look, when you get a chance, again, it's off topic, but look where Union Springs is. But again, that's a story for another time. But let me add this. A lot of our issues stem from what, you call it Kim's camp, but let me give you one more. As a vet, you know what PTSD stands for, correct?
Yes.
Let me give you a new acronym for it. Post-traumatic slave disorder. And here's what I mean.
Yeah.
When we look at the way we were treated, the pain inflicted, the atrocity, and let's call them what they were, atrocity. I will say this to you. This new rhetoric being spouted by this group is in response to them being afraid of what we might do to them in retaliation. See, Black folks in America have never retaliated. We're the most forgiving race on the face of this earth. And anybody within would understand that.
Yes.
So this is not only a fear of a Black planet, fear of Black reprisal.
Yep. Now, remember, Minister Farrakhan spoke that on Donahue. He said it on Donahue. They fear is what they done, not what we would do. I mean, they fear we'll do what they would do if they was in the shoe of the foot,
what they have done.
No, I'm saying if it was reversed, that's what they
Right.
fear is if it was
Right.
reversed that we would do what they done, you know.
Right.
So you right on point with what Mr. Farrakhan said a long time ago, you know. So yeah. All right, let's get the last 8 cities out the way so our leaders and people will know all 20 cities we're linked to. So New Orleans, that police commission was Sean D. Ferguson. That might be a brother too. They're linked to Chicago's east side called Hyde Park, Washington Park. Kansas City, Missouri, their police commission was Carl Oakman. They're linked to the Calumet Heights part of Chicago, 60617 zip code. Philadelphia, Philly Police Commission was Danielle Outlaw. I wanted to meet that sister before she left. Philadelphia is linked to Chicago's Chatham neighborhood. Dallas, Texas is Eddie Garcia. He's still in charge now, I think, as police commissioner. They're linked to the Roseland neighborhood. Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Alfonso Morales, police commissioner, and they're linked to the Woodlawn community in Chicago. And then Cleveland, Ohio, that police commissioner was Calvin Williams, another brother. They're linked to the Washington Heights part of Chicago. Stable, a lot of police officers over that way. Then Miami, Florida, Art Alvacido, Miami is linked to Chicago's South Shore neighborhood. And then Gary, Indiana is linked to Bronzeville. That police commission was Brian Evans, a brother. And so what any thoughts on those linkages? Those the final of the 20 linkages. But
it would be great if we could pull those linkages off. If I could get those brothers, sisters to come visit those places. Man.
That's why it's an honor having you on here, because when your relationships, your time in the game, and like that names I gave you, those people are mostly retired now. You know, when you retire, you can speak a little differently. So just imagine tapping into these retired of these leaders and getting them on, you know, we do this again next year, and really having this dialogue, but more importantly, pulling up the next generation, the young people, and making it cool to want to be a police officer again. Like that's the takeaway from the conventions, is to deconstruct this misconception on policing and snitching and all that. We want to deconstruct that and pay homage to the police, get stories. We pay the children to write essays on why you love and appreciate police this month, because it's police appreciation this month, so that we can start showing the benefit. When your mom, someone's breaking in, home invading, you call 911, the police got there. Let's hear about that versus just the bad news. So that's what we want to be pushing in all 20 cities. What do you think about that?
Look, man, when you get these guys, here's the problem. You have to make sure that when you get these retirees, that they tell the truth. Don't sit and push the county line because you don't have to no more.
That's what I was gonna say. Aren't you free now? You got
look, but see, listen. One of the reasons I didn't go up the ladder was twofold. I talk too much, as you could tell, and I say the wrong things. And when I say the wrong things, is that I stand up, and because that's the way I was brought up. You know, wrong is right as well. And here's what I mean by that. As a former homicide investigator, I had cases involving. Let me say this. The worst case a Black young man can have is a case of sexual assault. In my career, I was able to stop at least 6 cases. Now, the ones that were legit, I hammered them. Trust me, hammered them. But there's 5 brothers that didn't go to jail for BS. And I'm proud of that, because
how did you stop it? Like what could you do?
Here's the thing. Here's where I want people to understand. In all police departments across this country, the elite units are detective divisions. Look it up. Because in most cases, felony charges have to come through detectives before they go to the state's attorneys. So the investigator has to give the groundwork, the paperwork, set the case up. So in most of those cases, particularly in Chicago, the detective division was They didn't start
Yeah.
integrating the detective divisions till late 50s in Chicago. So,
Yeah.
so now you went from, before I left in Chicago, I think the most we ever had out of the detective division of black homicide detectives was 40 in the city of this size. Think about that. Now,
Yeah.
that's why, here, if you think I'm wrong, check this out. I want you to go back and I want you to look at all the cases that have been overturned recently and look who the detective. You don't see, you don't, correct me if I'm wrong. You don't see black detectives.
Oh yeah, no, no. Well, let's make sure our audience know though. Isn't the whole like didn't the Irish got the police around the country? Wasn't that kind of the deal that the government made with them to give them something so that they can stop the mobbing and all that type of stuff? They grant, Dr. Umar Johnson talks about how they gave the Irish the police, they gave the Polish this, they gave everyone except black people. They didn't get nothing that was given to them governmental to stabilize them.
Umar is right and wrong. And it happened kind of sociologically because once
Uh-huh.
groups started finding political power, so you got to remember when the slave hunters or the fugitive slave tracking was based on political alignment also. So when the Irish started learning we need to vote, that's when they started taking over these wards. Because at one time, even in Chicago, the police departments were based on ward configurations. So in Chicago, you'll notice that Streets and Sand at one time was Italian. Uh, Water Department was another group, but the Polish had a group. We didn't have nothing. In
Right.
fact, that's how the name copper comes about, not just because they drank so much. Irish were, the figure was a drunken Irish cop.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. No, that's the history. So it is what it is. So, but no, I think in Chicago is unique because again, you think about Al Capone days, you think about Dr. King, what he said, traveling all around the world, but said that about the racism here. So everyone watching, please know that this place, Chicago, is very important. Now, Atlanta, I got an article where they had the black police when they first integrated couldn't arrest white people in Atlanta.
That was
Like
true
they
here.
couldn't, they can see a crime and they just call it in. They can't touch it.
That was true here. Why do you listen? This whole idea of community policing, this ain't new to us. This ain't new to black folks. Community policing is another idea that they stole from us. And let me tell you why that happens. First of all, black policemen didn't get cars. So you were on foot patrol. That means you knew the grocer,
Yeah.
liquor store owner, the hair people, all of that. And even in my lifetime, some of these beat guys, you couldn't beat them. You could not beat them. If something happened, that people like to talk bad about this guy named Sylvester Washington, known as Two Gun Pete. Two Gun Pete did a lot of good. Of course, you don't hear that because they don't want you to know that. But whenever there was a shooting, guess who they'd send in the black community? They send Pete. The stories, here's the thing. If we want to see how they play us, think about this. Why is it that when you open a newspaper or even go to your internet, every killing, the majority of the killings that they run articles about black folks, they always show black folks. Now, here, yesterday there was the Indiana trooper was shot. You don't
Yep.
see a picture of that offender.
Yeah, I saw it, but it was definitely at the tail end because I was searching to make sure, and sure enough, it was at the tail end. It was a white guy.
You get my point. I had one reporter tell me years ago, Renee Ferguson, in fact, she's now deceased. She said, Joe,
Yep.
if it bleeds, it leads. Unfortunately, we bleed a lot. So
No, but that's part of the problem that from that standpoint, how you frame it. What we're dealing with right now with the young black boy who didn't come home from the boat of Horn Lake, Mississippi. Again, if the roles were reversed, they'd be digging into all the three brothers, what they do, they Facebook, even if they went private, they'll be going deeper. So we still got work to do on that front, you know. So I'm glad to be alive so we can do that work, you know.
Listen, that
So
I think that I would love to be an investigator on the Carmelo Anthony because I think he got real.
well, wait, say that again.
I would love to be an investigator working on this retrial of Carmelo Anthony down in Texas.
Well, I think nowadays with internet and all that, it's gonna be hard for them to get away with what they used to get away with, railroading us. You got some black internet police, internet investigators out of this world, social media investigators. They putting two together. They noticing AI took the hand off one person, and so yeah, you probably have a field day now. You would have a field day. So what do you say though with the future of policing? Where are we headed?
There's no question that policing has to change. There's no question. No question. But here's the problem. The problem is not policing itself. It's the mindset of those who work the field. And by that I mean you got people coming into these departments that don't interact. I've never interacted with black folks. Let me just say this. When I was in the field and when I was instructing, I used to have conversations with young men or young officers and tell them this. You cannot get out of your feelings because they don't respect you. And here's the real problem. They don't have to respect you. You have to respect them. And that's where the problem comes. A lot of these guys think, oh, they disrespect me. This ain't no gang, fool. Take that out your door. Take that out. When I came on the job, the first day on the job, first day in the academy, we go to what's it's called Welcome to the Gym. And then Welcome to the Gym, find you up, and they called you every name in the book. And if you cracked, you got fired.
Yeah.
And I agree with that. Do you know they took that out?
But they want to play with that testing, challenging people that much, or what was the logic?
I have no idea, but I can tell you that.
What was the stated logic, I should say? What was the stated logic?
The stated logic was it was too harsh.
If you don't get I knew it. I knew it. I knew that was gonna be it right there. But not politically correct enough.
Right, politically correct.
Yeah, yeah. But so I guess this goes politically too. So you're saying a reckoning is coming from a policing standpoint. What's your view on Democrat, their view on the future, and the Republicans' view on the future of policing? What's the difference in your estimation?
I think that, particularly now, the Democratic leadership is on crash course with the Republican leadership. And here's what I mean by that. It has been my experience that in order to govern, in order to lead, you have to lead you have to be a centrist. That means that there's good ideas here, there's good ideas there. Can we over police? Yes. Can we under police? Certainly. But this thing called policing has to change. Because if we look at the statistics of all these recent shootings, statistically, they're killing us. The reality is my son is the grandson, son, nephew of law enforcement officers, prosecutors, military, and I had to tell him to be careful. If you ever get stopped, yes sir, no sir, and then
yeah,
because I'd rather you get judged by 12 than carried by 6.
So, and that's something, because you, as someone that know the inside, for you to have to say that, how grave it got to look. But their numbers are decreasing, especially in this country. I've seen more Hispanics and Gary in law enforcement of late. And I know we had migrants in New York that was caught working and getting the green light to become police. And I think that's very treacherous when this country hasn't reconciled with its founding when it comes to black people reparations. Because now when you give someone who don't have that track record authority over angry people, justifiably angry people, I think that's that. So to me, that future doesn't look that bright. What do you say to that?
No, I totally agree. But again, their experience ain't our experience. So
It's not. You said it is or it's not.
it's not. Here's the
Yeah,
thing.
right. It ain't right. Exactly.
The problem now is that you've got the oppressed becoming the oppressor. So because I get to play bigger than you, I'm going to make sure that you get treated worse than I do. Lyndon B. Johnson said in 65, I think it was 65, 66, if you could take the lowest white man and teach him he's better than the black man, he will not only
Yeah.
open his pockets, he let you put your hand in the pocket and steal from him. Lyndon Johnson. If you don't believe me, you can look it up.
No. But that's what we see playing. That's how they created, like America created white race, because they said they had to get the poor whites to think better, that they were better than the poor blacks, even though they both had the same oppressor. So that's exactly what you just said. Big time. No, big time. But what can we do? Is there anything we can do besides just trying to get more young people to become police?
I think it's fourfold. We have to put these institutions back in our neighborhood, family values, however that's done. We have to instill in our people, our youngsters, that they're not thugs, that they're just as intelligent as anyone else. I mean, hell, if you look at the amount of inventions in this country, 97% of them were invented by black folks. I had a kid tell me, we were talking about cars one day, and he said, well, yeah, Henry Ford. I said, hold up, son. Henry Ford didn't invent the automobiles, a guy named Patterson, but they destroyed all his items. So you don't know
Right.
that. Henry Ford stole all his ideas from a guy named Patterson. All of them.
What I always say to that, though, Joseph, is you don't just go and create stuff. The reason we're so creative is because you create when challenged, when you're inside of a situation where you got to figure out something. They haven't had to figure out nothing. The privilege allows them to not worry and figure out nothing. The reason we invented the lawnmower, because cutting the grass with scissors just wouldn't work. Let's invent something. So why would they invent something when they're not in the struggle? What do you say to that?
Man, I'll give you one better. People like to throw around this term conservative. Well, who were the original conservatives? Think about the word. Look at the semantics of it. Conserve, to save, right?
Right.
Who had to save? We had to save everything. We couldn't eat the same food you did.
Yep.
To learn, we had to save our money because you didn't pay us. So the original conservatives, when you think about it, are black folks.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. Now you had fourfold. So I got family values, not the thugs. What's the other two?
The other two are going to be education. Now, and hear me out. Education doesn't necessarily come in the form of going to college. We've got to bring those trades back. Got to.
Okay.
Prime example. Look at me. I'm a retired policeman, got over 40 years in law enforcement. Ain't nobody trying to hire me. But guess what I need? I need an air conditioning guy. I need an electrician. I need a carpenter, mechanic. All my friends that have those trades are still making money of some sort. So that's the one. And the fourth one is have pride in who and what you are. One thing you said, I want you to look at the numbers, and when you get a chance, we'll talk about it. Look at the scenes. When you see these new scenes of all the policemen on the scene, I want you to notice how many black officers you see nowadays.
I already do that every time.
I got the numbers again. I'll send them to you. And it ain't good.
But that's my point with like them passing laws to let non-citizens become police, them letting non-citizens be counted in the census. These things are a detriment to us who are, in this case, still not giving our just due. if blacks had reparations, we would easily welcome everyone because we're loving people like that. So we would let them come cut our grass and do that, but not at the expense of we know our young people here need to earn money and they can be cutting their grass. So it's like you want us to do for you and not do for our own selves. So I that's my thoughts on that part.
Well, let me add one thing to that. One thing that they have that we don't, and this is part of the PTSD syndrome, is that they stick together. Now, here's what I mean. And then, prime example: if you look at our upcoming election, even our past election, I want you to look at all the Hispanic candidates and where they won at. Then I want you to look at the number of votes cast in those areas. The 10th ward used to be heavily Polish and somewhat Irish. They now have a Hispanic alderman. Look at the
Mm-hmm.
number of Hispanic votes up there. Look in the 7th ward. The 7th ward, which I ran this some years ago, I had a guy tell me, he said, listen, Moser, and I had actually worked on a case of his when I was a police officer. I'd been friends with him, been by his house, talked to him, and actually saved one of his kids. He told me, we're not going to vote for you. What?
Wow.
He said, no. So in this race coming up, look for Mendoza to pull off a lot of numbers because they're going to come out and vote for her. And here's the thing: they'll vote against our interests for theirs. Think about that.
Well, that's what the Koreans with everyone except us. So yeah.
Sir, sir.
But the black women are proving that our dollar matters right now.
Oh,
Asian supply stores, restaurants, they're going out of business around the country because we chose to keep our money amongst us, to do for self, to love on our own people, and that lets them know we got the power to do that with the gas stations. Who owns those? Corner stores. So we're trending in the right direction, and I always like to tell people, Spain 42 million people, blacks 46 million. So we 4 more million larger than Spain. They GDP 1.4 trillion. We spent 1.6 trillion. You know what I mean? Like, so they got their own military, we don't. They got their own schools, we don't. So we're a colony inside this country that everyone eats off of and benefits from. What do you say to that?
say you're completely correct. Let me add this to it also. In every recovery program, whether it be alcohol, narcotics, in every recovery program, in order to start the recovery, Narcotics Anonymous, and so forth, you have to admit that there's a problem. Would you agree with that?
Ground zero. Yeah. What are we talking about without it? Yeah.
So until America comes to grips with its sordid past, even the minister talked, even King talked, X talked about, until we come to grips with what they've done, we're not going to move forward. And that's why it's so important that they move these other groups in so they can slowly,
Yep.
through genocidal tactics,
Yep.
take us out.
The economist Claude Anderson said that. Said we go move to the 4th place versus being the 2nd place. We go be moved to the 4th because of the flooding of other people.
Yep.
Yeah. So we only got 2 minutes. I wanted to do this. Give me your hope for the rest of this year, and then next year we'll convene again Saturday, July 10th, hopefully in person. But any hope you have on where we're headed, safer neighborhoods, anything from that standpoint?
Listen, man, you took it right out of my mouth. I hope for all of that, but I hope and I pray that our people start reading, because the worst, and I hope people forgive me for saying this, the worst thing we can do is to be ignorant. The greatest crime is ignorance of facts. Don't.
You just brought that to a different highlight for me. You're right about that. You're right. That's so simple, but I didn't even put that. Don't be ignorant.
And we don't have to be.
That's powerful. That is powerful, man. I mean, I had to take note of that one. So, yeah, like, cause that's simple, and sometimes simple messages are the ones that hit home because, like, whether you don't overthink it. I just broke it down to you, you know. All right. So, thank you for your time. Who should who do you suggest we get in touch with for by next year to sponsor the travel of our people coming up from Mississippi, from Alabama up here? Is it like the police union? Should we reach out to the police supply companies that supply uniforms? Who would you suggest?
All of them. I'd say all of them and
Yep.
let them know. As
Yep.
as the old adage goes, a closed mouth don't get fed.
Okay. That's good. That's basic. That's good. Any thoughts you want to leave us with here? We at the 11 o'clock hour.
Hey man, I thank you for having me. And here's a shout, an acknowledgement to Black women all across this country, and to to the Black men doing the work too, and to you, man, because I know your work side, and thank you. Keep up the work, and I'm in with you, brother. I'm in.
Nah, man, I salute you again. And we're gonna, before the money's out, we're gonna have the young people doing little interviews and talking about why they appreciate police to combat that negative stereotype.
I would love to
Appreciate you,
talk to
my
them.
brother.
Hey man, if you need me to talk to some kids, let me know. I'm in.
Oh, we definitely gonna need that. Our fourth graders in particular, because they're young enough and moldable enough. So yeah, them fourth graders, we go line it up. All right, thank you and thank everyone. Let's rock and roll, y'all. Full speed ahead.